So I took to the roads going across country and through beautiful scenery. It was just a really pleasant drive. Unfortunately though, this is where my problem started. So I've spent the last 3 nights at a place called Nogent-le-Roi. It's been a great stop. Small air, proper air, 4 places, but 3 services including electric, which has been really, really good. And it was good to catch up with a few things. I've done a little bit of work on the computer, which was good. Yeah, and to hunker down for a little while, just to relax and get into the sort of the way of travelling and things like that. It's been good. So driving along, my ESP or electronic stability control light kept coming on the dashboard, and I went into limp mode. Yeah, so this happened 3-4 times, and I kept stopping, switching off and resetting, but then eventually my engine warning light came on, which is obviously an indication maybe something more serious. And not being too far from Tours, I decided to go into the big Mercedes truck dealership there and see if they could have a look at it for me, which they did. They were really, really good actually. So having put it through the diagnostics and the computer, it turned out to be the throttle pedal assembly and sensors that were faulty. So by 11 o'clock in the morning I was back on the road thinking everything was fine, but that was not the end of the problems, unfortunately. Okay, so good morning folks. As you can see, the sun's shining and I'm back in Spain, but it's been a really hectic last month. I do apologise. I expected to get some more videos out in the last few weeks after the last one where I told you about some problems with the van and the fuel crisis in France. But unfortunately, the problems that I explained then or briefly mentioned were just the start of a really sort of unlucky period, if you like. Effectively, before I left to start the journey last time, I had a problem, small little oil leak coming from the engine bay. Apparently it was something to do with an airbox, to do with the throttles, whatever. I don't really fully understand it, but it needed to be done. I took it into Mercedes and they managed to put it right for me, no problem. It left me a bit short in the wallet, it's got to be said, because the actual new seals and gaskets were only £20, but the labour was 3.5 hours, which is over £400. So yeah, it was an expensive do, but nonetheless I got it all done and serviced the van, changed the oil and filter and things like that, and thought that would be the end of the problems. But then, having come across to France, I got down almost down as far as Tours, which is when I had the second problem, which is the one I briefly mentioned in the last video, and that again was to do with the throttle. Apparently what happened in fact is my ESP light would come on, and then I would need to stop, switch off and reset it, etc. And I couldn't understand quite why the ESP, which is the stability control, kept coming on, but it did. And as I mentioned before, it happened 4 or 5 times, and then after the 5th time my engine warning light came on and didn't go off, and obviously that generally is a sound of something a little bit more involved, a little bit more complex. So I took it to Mercedes in Tours. They diagnosed the problem as the throttle pedal assembly and sensors, which fortunately they managed to get the parts overnight for me, and they took it into the workshops and got that fitted for me. Terrific. Excuse me, it cost me another 300 and something, £380 I think. So the better part of £1,000 spent, you know, within just a few weeks. Fingers crossed again that everything was now good to go, and I set off. I have to just make one point, and that is having the new throttle assembly fitted did seem to improve my fuel consumption a little bit, so maybe there was an ongoing problem from some time ago, don't know. But anyway, a couple of days later, just south of Tours, I went to open the door, the side sliding door, which is where I get in and out the camper from the inside, and it jammed. It wouldn't budge. I couldn't open it, couldn't close it, whatever. It just jammed solid. So I had to climb over the front seats, get out, and eventually after some pretty sort of good shaking and pushing and pulling and poking and whatever, I did manage to get the door open. And basically what happened is that the slider beneath the step and the track, etc., had got broken and damaged, and the door actually had dropped on the bottom roller. So there wasn't really much I could do there and then on the side of the road. Again, I took it back to Mercedes in Tours. They looked at it, told me really basically what the problem was, and said yes, they could do it, but they weren't sure how long it would take to get the parts. Could be a week, could be 2 weeks, they're not sure, because obviously this is right-hand drive, the door's on the opposite side to normal French vans, etc. Whether that had a big difference, I don't know, but there we go. But the problem, the big problem for me, was the fact that when they came to look at the van, to look at the step and the door, the chap said to me, "You have a problem." And I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "Well, looking at it, your kitchen unit is built over the step, and in order to make the repairs, the step needs to be removed, which meant in order to get the repair done, I've got to take half the kitchen, if not most of the kitchen units out, take all my gas bottles out, because I have my gas locker there, take all that away in order to be able to get the step out, in order to be able to replace the parts and make everything good again." Which was a bit of a dilemma, because it's not the sort of thing I could do on the side of the road. And obviously, you know, to get someone like Mercedes to try and take all the kitchen out was totally impractical. To find a caravan motorhome dealer that would do the same was again totally impractical. So being that I was only in Tours, which is really a long one-day drive back to the UK, too easy, I decided to return to the UK, get the thing done, make sure everything was perfect before setting off again. That decision was also, I suppose, a little bit to do with the Brexit, because obviously if I was in France and it took me a week or 2 weeks of hanging around to get the parts and then being able to fix it, all those days were coming off my 90-day allowance in the Schengen area. By going back to the UK, I put a stop to the days, and that would make it easier later on. So that's what I did. Went back to the UK, got the work done. I took the kitchen, I'd done the work myself in fact, took the kitchen out, took the step up, put the new slider down, track, etc. Rehung the door, put the rollers and nice, everything else, perfect. Spent a few days then in England just making sure everything else was perfect again, went round the van, double checked everything, was good to go. And so I took a ferry now, a little over a week ago, back from Dover to Calais, and then I've really just pushed on through very quickly down towards Spain. My idea being that, you know, the idea of coming away in the winter is to get, you know, the winter sun, the warmer weather, and I'm already delayed by a couple of weeks of going back to the UK, so I decided to push on down into Spain, and then I can spend more time going back when I come back next year, going back through France. So that's what I've done. I quickly come down through France, crossed over the Pyrenees, dropped down into a place I've stayed at before called Ainsa, the first night in Spain, and from Ainsa to Ascot, etc. And you'll see these places as I put them on the video. If not this video, the next video, I will try and sort of catch up with everything as we go along. And then I've pushed on, I went down as far as Castellón and El Grau, and now I'm not too far away from Murcia, so now it's time to really start to slow down, enjoy the good weather, and yeah, get back into the sort of travelling frame of mind that I wanted to have a few weeks back. The weather, has got to be said, in Spain so far has been fantastic. Yesterday was 29 degrees, lots of sun. Did have a little bit of rain yesterday afternoon, but I am 640 metres above sea level where I am at present. So today I'm going to go down towards Murcia, and obviously that will be lower down, and then I'll be along the coast, and hopefully everything will work out as far as that's concerned. So yeah, apologies for the delay in keeping up to date with you. Hopefully from now on I can get regular videos out of the journey, I think. So let's fingers crossed. So join me next time as I make my way down through France quite quickly and then cross over the Pyrenees and drop down into Spain. Hopefully then I'll be able to catch up on things and go forward from there. Thanks for watching.